Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 8 of the Serious Football Heads podcast. With me, as always, is Tom. How's it
How you
going?
doing, everybody? And how about a glorious hallelujah for the end of the preseason?
Oh, no kidding. We have let's see, we still have to cover weeks 3 and 4 of the preseason, which not much happened there. We have the regular season coming up, which we'll definitely get into more depth next Thursday. I was thinking maybe we could do a live stream on that.
Nice.
Um, just kind of one of those things, everybody else is going to be talking live about it. We might as well do it too. And then not a whole lot else to cover because again we'll get into the games next week. I don't know how you feel about making predictions.
I'm a master at predictions, as a matter of fact. So I've decided to participate in the Las Vegas tradition of betting on football this year. So I've set up a little account and I've got all my first week's picks set ready to go. I just have to go down today or tomorrow and get everything set up. And I've got my first 5-game parlay ready to go. And I'm going to be making 2 bets on the 5 games. The first one is just the point spread, and the second game is the money line. And you pick 5 winners, you win all 5, you win the pot. So that's my approach for this coming football season as far as it goes with betting.
Fun. It is. How do I want to put this? I unfortunately am in a state where that type of thing is frowned upon. Going with Vegas, I can always go to a casino, but I choose not to.
Yeah, I've stayed away from it for quite a while, but I usually am in a pool with some friends, and we used to do it just for a dinner or something like that. And we just pick every winners every week. And at the end of the season, whoever had the most wins, was treated to dinner. And I won probably 90% of the time on that. So I just thought, why don't I just give it a shot and see if I can put my money where my mouth is.
Oh yeah, what do I want to say here? My friends and I, we usually do a fantasy football league, and it has at times before Washington's law been for money, but since then we don't do that. However, we still jab at each other when it comes to picking games. I tend to do the worst, even though I do listen to satellite radio. I don't know what it is that I'm missing that they're picking up on.
You know what's weird is before I listened to or started listening to Sears football, I was 90. I don't think I had ever lost, to be perfectly honest. I think it's over analysis, and you get swayed by everything that you're listening to, and a lot of times, those guys aren't great at picking games, to be perfectly
No, I
honest.
know. I know. I listen to Tim and Pat, but I try to balance it with Jim and Pat now, I should say. Force a habit there. I listen to Jim and Pat. I listen to just about everybody when it comes to their analysis throughout the week. I try to go back and listen to as much as I can. And with my satellite radio failing in my car, I might end up start using the app a bit more.
Yeah, and a lot of times they don't take certain things into account. This team has lost 2 games in a row, and it's going up against a team that it could beat, and that's significant.
It is.
In a locker room, and it's significant on a sideline. And if you don't consider that in making your pick, a lot of times, you make a pick based on other situations, and it doesn't work out. So there's definitely an ebb and flow to the season. There was Philadelphia when they went to the year they won the Super Bowl. They were like 12-0 or something going into Seattle.
Yeah.
And I'm like, and to me, I was a no-brainer. Seattle wins that game. There's just no question about it. And sure enough, everyone picked Philadelphia, and they went into Seattle and got beat.
Yep.
Because they didn't take into account the situation. It's really hard to go 16-0. It's only been done, twice. And when you got a team if you accept the fact that they're not going to go undefeated, and then you consider going into Seattle as one of the tougher games that you could win in any circumstances, it makes perfect sense that that would be the game they would drop.
Yeah, and if I remember correctly, Seattle was on a losing streak at the time, so they were thinking the fans weren't going to be in it as much. And yet, it's like if you underestimate the power of a fan base in a stadium like that, or even Arrowhead, I mean, the two of the loudest stadiums in the league right now.
Yeah, and so a lot of times they overanalyze. Well, so and so's got a bad knee, so we're going to take something away from this team, and there are certain players in the league that are worth that consideration, and most of them play quarterback. And you can't put too much emphasis on, a player playing or not, unless it's one of those handful of guys.
Yeah, if Tom Brady goes down, I still have a little bit more respect for his backup playing in that offense than I do, say, Geno Smith if he were to win our backup role.
You're in big trouble.
Exactly.
If that happens.
Exactly. But that's the point is, there's only a handful of these elite players that, if they get injured, the team needs to worry, and that's the hard part.
Yeah.
So,
and it's like for the Chargers right now, I was thinking about this yesterday. I would just love to go into a season once at full strength. I mean, just once. Let me see what this team can really do if everybody's healthy and everybody plays. And it just never seems to happen, I mean, We've got the Gordon holdout, and then Derwin James goes down with his foot. And both of those things we can overcome, and we have people in place that can fill those slots and hold the fort down. But it would just be so nice to just see everybody play once.
Yeah. And you're not the only fan of a team that thinks that. I mean, I would love to be able to see the Seahawks go in full strength.
Yeah. And you guys are already missing a couple of guys too.
Mm-hmm. I would love to see the Browns. I would love to see, any team go in full strength. It's almost unheard of.
Yeah. And, but that's just part of the game.
It is.
So I was also thinking this morning, how great was it that the NFL finally does something terrific and has all of the last week 4 games on the same day and just rip that Band-Aid off and be done with it.
It is nice.
It was just great. And we went, we've had this DirecTV issue that finally was resolved yesterday. So I will not be missing any games. And had already made plans to go out to see the Charger game last night. So we did that anyway, just for fun.
Yeah.
And, and they had every preseason game on all these different screens around the whole place and done, and it was, a lot of them were the kind of preseason games that I just hate, the 3 and outs, incomplete passes, fumbles, mistake. And, and we're pretty dreary all the way through, I thought. So at least now they're finally over. Cuts will be happening today. I haven't heard anything significant yet today.
I haven't either yet. That won't be till closer to 1:00 our time.
Yeah. And they've got till tomorrow afternoon to get those rosters down, but they'll do it pretty fast. I mean, there are already guys being called into coaches' offices all around the league.
Oh yeah.
Say, thanks for everything.
Hand over your
keep
playbook.
it going. Keep it going. You'll get another shot somewhere. Yeah. And, and a lot of guys just will be done.
Speaking of those, I was going to say, speaking of those week 4 games, out of all of the games that they had, only 4 of them were by a touchdown or greater in point differential.
Oh, really?
Yeah. If you count 6 points, you have Pittsburgh, Carolina, where Carolina won by 6 points. You have Indy versus Cincinnati by 7. You have New York winning over Philly 6-0. Then the big one is Baltimore over Washington at 20-7, and all the KC and Green Bay. So I forgot 1, 2. Looks like it's a little bit bigger than I thought it was actually, but still, looking at all these kind of blowoutish games for week 4, it's kind of or the lack thereof, kind of. It's more of like
Right.
17-15, 29 to 31 to 29. Those types of scores.
Right. And, everyone was just trying to get out. I remember years ago, I was in Phoenix doing an event, and it was just the start of the preseason. It was, a matter of fact, it was LaDainian Tomlinson's rookie season, and it was game 4 of the preseason. And they were playing the Cardinals in Sun Devil Stadium. And I went to the game. Naturally, if I'm in town, I'm going to go. So I'm sitting there in the stands by myself wearing my Charger jersey, and the gate opens onto the field, and a guy walks up and sits down next to me and says, "Hey, would you like to come down on the field and help me during the game?" And I immediately looked around and thought, I've got friends here someplace that are just, screwing with me right now. And no, it wasn't. And I went down, and it remember back in the day, they used to have the pictures taken.
Yeah.
Okay. And they'd be printed out on the side of the field and put into a folder. And then the coaches would look at them immediately afterwards.
Yeah.
Well, that's what he needed help with. So that's what I was doing. Okay. And it was pretty cool, actually. I'm on the field. It was Tomlinson's very first game. He finally had signed his contract and was in camp, and he played about 3 or 4 plays during that game. And then the game, and then, and I was on the field. I had to call a friend of mine and say, "Hey, are you watching the Charger game?" "Yeah." "You see those guys on the field throwing the football back and forth? I'm one of them." So after the game, though, and it was game 4, everybody, they were, the crew came, and they were all moving stuff back into the loading area because they were putting it back on the plane, and they were flying back to San Diego.
Yeah.
And I was in the locker room after the game, and I distinctly remember this one guy who was a safety, and he'd gotten hurt in the end of the third quarter, beginning of the fourth quarter, and his arm was in a sling, and the look on his face was just pure devastation because he knew he wasn't going to make this team. And that was probably the last football game he'd ever play. And I stood there as he walked by, and I wanted to say something to him, but the look on his face, he was unapproachable. There was no way I could have said anything that would have not gotten me a punch in the face. And I just, as he walked by and I saw this, and I just went, wow, what a day for so many of these guys. And that's back in the day when they did the 3 cuts. So it was down to the last, 60 guys, and 7 of them are going to be cut that night. And this kid just knew he was one of those 7. And just a total look of devastation on his face.
Oh yeah. I could only imagine what that feeling would be like.
Yeah.
So.
And I'm sure most of them know it's coming, and they're like, "Mom, I'll be home on Friday. Okay, just relax." But at the same time, it's got to be just devastating.
Yep. So not much in the way of news on on anything for training camp. The biggest news, though, is that the Jaguars have released Terrell Pryor and Dayton Jones.
Pryor was hurt. He probably had an injury settlement.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Yeah, and these guys are going to, it's going to wait and see what names really end up popping up here over the next day. I don't have any insight or clue as to who they might be, but it's going to be interesting to see who, in fact, is, released. And you know that the XFL has to be just sitting there drooling.
Oh yeah,
because the guys that get released and don't get picked up, they'll just come in and swoop them up.
Yep. And they also got rookie cornerback Savion Smith as well. Is what it looks like. Jones, I didn't hear too much about him this year. Nothing negative, nothing positive. So.
Jacksonville's been interesting. They have had a horrific preseason.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, they have been blown out in every game they've played, but at the same time, they haven't played anybody. The majority, I don't know that Nick Foles has played at all in the preseason. He might have played a couple of series last week, but for the most part, he hasn't played. The first game, they held out 32 guys. And consequently, like I said, they've been getting blown out all the way. But now looking at that division, if I'm going to pick a team to win it, I'm going to pick Jacksonville, because Houston has been playing horrifically.
Oh yeah,
and that's their first teamers. their first string guys have just been playing horrifically. Tennessee, what's going to be how Mariota goes. And, if he even wins that job. Tannehill's been playing well. So, we'll have to wait and see. And then, of course, the biggest news of all of the entire offseason and preseason is in Indianapolis.
Oh, yeah.
And I was going to say, I wanted to introduce a special guest here today. Since he has nothing better to do, Andrew Luck has decided to join us. So he'll be pulling up a chair. Just kidding.
That would be nice. I would enjoy that actually quite a bit.
But so that whole division is upside down at this point. And you don't know what Jacksonville's going to look like because they just haven't shown anything. And I would be picking Jacksonville to win that division at this point in time. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, it is one of those, how do I want to put it? And I just thought of something that I can do for this, actually. Let's pin you to the screen. So when I share the screen, it doesn't pop off of you, and I might be able to filter us both into looking at the news screen later. So, I'm looking at the other news that we're tracking Friday. Let me pull that back up for you here really quick. I haven't watched anything of the Houston game, and I'm interested to see this. That I'm assuming third-string quarterback Joe Webb has suffered a significant foot injury, and A.J. McCarron has a thumb injury suffered earlier in camp. So who's going to be playing quarterback for them?
Well, it'll be Deshaun Watson to start, but
I know.
He has not developed into the guy I thought he was going to be. His rookie year, he was so good.
Mm-hmm.
And then he got hurt.
By
since
Seattle,
he's been back, since he's been back, he's not been excelling in the way that I expected him to. I thought he would develop much stronger than he has, and that's a shame because they've got some issues. They lost, Lamar Miller. He's done for the season on his very first and only preseason carry.
Yeah.
So anybody that wants to complain about your starters not playing in the preseason, stop it. That happens every year to somebody, and like I was saying last week too, with these inter-squad scrimmages, guys are getting some really serious reps in practice. And, Phillip Rivers said he got 150 snaps between practicing with the Rams and the Saints.
Yeah.
He would have gotten 30 in the entire preseason. So, I'm not worried about that element of it at all. And until you get to the pros, you don't have preseason. You practice in high school, you practice in college, and then you go play games.
Exactly.
So it's not that big a deal at this point in time, I don't think. I do like all of this talk about trimming down the preseason. Because like I said, last night was excruciating, but we did it all at once and they're all done. Now nobody has to worry about watching another preseason game. And the next time we see our teams play, we're going to see our teams play and play with the guys that are, that are going to play for real.
Yep.
But I do like that talk because after the second preseason game, I'm ready for the damn season to start. I don't need to see anything else.
Yeah, I don't know if it was you or if it was somebody else talking about preseason, especially and I think the preseason is better for the refs than it is for the players. I want to say it was the San Diego-Seattle game where Seattle got away with a massive holding penalty on one of your receivers. I want to say because I went back and watched it. Somebody brought it to my attention. I don't think it was you, but it was. But I can't seem to find it in that game now.
Yeah, no, it wasn't. It was the week before. It was me. It was the Seattle Minnesota game.
That might have been it. Yeah,
and I was saying that they should have challenged it.
Yeah,
because on the next play, the guy threw a pick six.
Yeah, that's what it was. For some reason, I thought somebody was telling me something similar happened in week 3 with Seattle as well.
I'm sure it could have. And the thing about it is that the refs are can only see so much. They can't see the whole thing. And if and these guys are really good at using their bodies to block, the grabs and the holds and the pushes and stuff like that. And they'll get discovered on replay. And then now the coaches have the opportunity to challenge that. And I don't see this being, the big issue that everyone is making of it. Not going to be called very
Oh no, it's
often.
not, because you're not going to
It's
want to
going to
waste
be
your challenge
called
flag.
when it's blatant only, because they won't overturn. They did that in the preseason. Every time I saw it called, I think it was only overturned once, and it was so blatant you had no choice but to overturn it.
Yeah.
And the coaches know that that's going to be the case, and they're not going to waste a challenge on maybe, just to break the rhythm of the game or do anything else that everyone's talking about. So that's just my opinion. So
Yeah.
we'll wait and see what happens.
I'm surprised that New England didn't get a bag of balls for Duke Dawson as well. Traded Duke Dawson in a 7th-round pick in next year's draft for a 6th-round pick in the same draft. He was a 2nd-round pick in 2018, so it has yet to appear in a single game. So that's kind of sad for Duke that this is how his career is progressing.
Well, it's typical New England. They make a mistake and then they compensate, or they remedy it and get compensation for it. So,
And talk about injuries in the last preseason game. Rodney Anderson for Cincinnati, rookie running back, tore his ACL last night. It's the same. It's that same. Palmer added that it's the same ACL tear that he tore last year at Oklahoma, causing him to fall in the draft. So the
wow.
Bengals are now down to Joe Mixon and Giovanni Bernard at running back.
Yeah, well, they'll have an opportunity to pick up somebody that gets cut.
Oh yeah.
The one thing that stood out to me, a friend of mine is saying that our running game for the Chargers is really weak, and I totally disagree. We have some real depth there, and there are going to be a couple of guys that are going to hit the street that will get a shot somewhere else, because they showed up really well last night.
Yeah, there are a lot of players that show up in this week 4 that at the very least are going to hit somebody's practice squad.
Yep.
Apparently, Dimitrov says Falcons are very close to a deal with Julio Jones to extend him before the beginning of the season.
We knew that was going to happen.
Edelman did not re-injure his thumb last night, apparently.
Did he play?
He played a handful of snaps, I'm sure.
Ah, okay.
Finn's named Fitzpatrick starting quarterback.
That's a mistake. No, not in terms of, playing ability, but just in terms of dealing with that quarterback situation for the future. You've got the young kid in Rosen. Play him. Find out if he can play. What Fitzpatrick can do. He's done it on 13 other teams. He's going to be great for 3 games. Then he's going to throw a handful of interceptions, and then they'll put Rosen in. So just start with Rosen and see what he does. And if he fails miserably, then you can put Fitzpatrick in to, play out the season. And that next year you're going, quarterback in the draft. So I've thought all along that it was silly to even suggest that Fitzpatrick would be starting. But, so now we're going to wait 3 weeks.
Yeah.
And Fitzpatrick will be terrific for 3 weeks. And then week 4, he'll fall apart, and, and then you go from there.
Well, let's see here. They're doing what we learned from the preseason games.
Yeah.
So Geno Smith was doing pretty good, 4 of 7 with 107 yards and 2 touchdowns.
Yeah, they should start him
over my dead body.
Yeah.
But then Paxton Lynch came in and went 1 for 7 for 4 yards.
Yeah, the some guys that really needed to step up yesterday didn't. Paxton Lynch was one of them, but that seems to be his MO. He's great until, he has to be good, and then he's not. Easton Stick for the Chargers yesterday, he did end up winning the game for them, but he threw 2 picks and, had a subpar performance in a night that he needed to really shine to win that 3rd QB spot. Davis Webb, I saw a little bit of his play, and he wasn't performing very well either. So some of these guys that had a chance, they just kind of fell down.
I see Adderley made a good play.
Finally, he dropped 2 interceptions right in his hands. And the stats come out and they count as defended passes, right? So
Yeah.
it's two defended passes and an interception, and you look at it and go, "Wow, this guy was great." I was screaming at him. I just couldn't believe it. Two just right in his hands, dropped both of them, and then the one he did intercept was batted up in the air, so he caught it off the deflection. And he's not the greatest tackler in the world either. I was pretty disappointed actually overall with his
Yeah.
play. Hopefully he'll get better, but he won't be starting anytime soon. I can tell you that.
Yeah. That's not how they're trying to present it here. Is there? If the 22-year-old out of Delaware can step in and take James's place as an instant impact rookie, perhaps the Bolts won't experience so sizable a drop off as expected in the season's early months.
Well, I don't know who wrote that, but they obviously haven't been watching the Chargers play.
Jeremy Bergman.
Okay, well, he hasn't been watching very closely because Adrian Phillips and Desmond King were both in the Pro Bowl last year, and those would be the guys that are replacing Derwin James. And they're not Derwin James, but they are both really solid football players.
Reading some of these this commentary here, the Tennessee Titans Chicago Bears game. Moments after quarterback Tyler Bray tossed a touchdown to Jasper Horsted on Thursday night, Bears kicker Eddie Pinheiro promptly hooked his extra point attempt left.
Oh, for God's sake.
It was a shank of the highest order. Bears fans booed heavily, and the Chicago kicking conundrum continues.
Yeah, they got having gone through that, 2 years ago.
Yeah.
I feel their pain. And
at least you didn't
what's
have
this
Blair
about
Walsh.
the girl? What's this about the girl? Cheryl. What's her name? She was on the soccer team.
Oh yeah,
and she's been getting some, talk about getting tryouts.
Yeah.
Apparently hit a 50-yarder in practice in one of the practices. So
yeah. Here's my thing about that. If she can do it and she can play like the men can, I have no problem with it. The issue is going to come up when she takes her first big hit from one of those cornerbacks.
Well, yeah, and that's what I was going to say too. But there have been tiny kickers in this league, little guys that come out and kick and then fall to the ground and cover their heads. And that would be my biggest concern is kickoffs, obviously. And
because she could get blindsided by a big old linebacker on that.
And not that she's not she's probably got 3% body fat and is all sinew and muscle, but at the same time,
her muscle structures.
She weighs 120 pounds, so she could get seriously hurt if they put her in the wrong position.
Yeah.
Like if she were to kick off, my coaching thing would be kick off and run off the field because you don't want her going down trying to get tackles.
Yeah. The biggest argument I hear against it, and I don't agree with it, is that because she's part of a professional women's soccer team that lost to a 16 and under boys team, she has no business playing in professional men's sports.
They just won the World Cup
again against a bunch of women, and again this is the arguments against her, not my opinion of her. Not all of these women play to the same caliber as the USA team does. And again, this USA team lost to 16-year-old boys, so therefore they're not as good. And I'm like, that's a stupid chauvinistic argument that.
And I don't know I don't know anything about that, to be honest. But I've got to ask, when was that game played, and who played in it, and was it an exhibition for charity, and did they really care?
It was an exhibition. I don't think it was a charity. It was prior to the World Cup, so it didn't even matter in the World Cup standings because again, it's a 16U, But it's one of those things that it's like, yeah, I'm sure that they looked at that game as just a bare practice at best. Much like an inter squad scrimmage. You're not going full bore, but you're not. You're still going to give a little bit of try to it,
right?
If you're on the first team, so. And
I don't know what that win or loss, how that bears on an individual kicking a football.
it bears nothing,
Yeah,
and that's just it. Is people are going to come up with that statement, and it's just so stupid.
it is. I mean, I doubt, I don't see it actually happening. Although, if Chicago keeps bringing these guys in, she may get a shot because you got to do something. But I think it would be very cool. I love the female referee that we have.
Yeah.
She does a great job.
She does a really good job.
There's no reason in the world that she shouldn't have that position. She was on the that commercial, that 100-year commercial that they made.
Yeah.
With all those guys. It took me a couple of times of watching it before I realized who it was, because her hair was down and she was in a dress and she looked really pretty. And I was like, who's that woman? What's she doing in there? And then I went, oh, that's the referee. That's right.
All right.
So, and the thing is, there's no discussion about it anymore, and there shouldn't be.
No,
she comes in, she does her job, and she does it very well. So what's to talk about? You know what else? This actually was pissing me off yesterday on Sirius. I can't remember the guy's name, Richard Riley or somebody. He was a linebacker. He used to play for the Bills. And then he was cut last year, and he's not in the league now. He's a free agent. But apparently he came in some interview. He told the interviewer that he was bisexual, and it was on the damn 2-minute warning. So-and-so declared that he was bisexual. And in other news, and it went on, and I went, why is that news? Who cares?
It's for basically social justice standing points.
I mean, it's just that it pissed me off that they were even talking about it.
Oh yeah,
like it matters. Like there aren't gays in football, okay, or there aren't gays in professional sports. That's not true.
Yep.
But what difference does it make, and whose business is it? And this guy chose to talk about it and make an issue of it. But at the same time, I just don't care.
So speaking of former players and the like, when Andrew Luck announced his retirement, Steve Berline came out and said, "I'm a huge #Andrew Luck fan, always have been, but I cannot defend or justify. No scenario where this retirement is defensible. To do this to his teammates, organization, fans, and the NFL 2 weeks before the season is just not right. I love the guy, but this will haunt him." I responded with, "Indefensible? His heart is not in it, so why continue playing a game in which you could get seriously hurt? These players owe us fans nothing. If they say they are done, then they are done, and we move on."
Yeah, I totally agree. Nobody makes anybody play this game, and they play it for their own reasons. It's the love of the game. It's the money. It's the fame. It's the adulation. Whatever they get out of it, that's what they get out of it. And when that's gone, there's no reason to continue playing. And there's a I read an article about this as well that said that this may happen more than people realize in terms of guys like Andrew Luck at that point in their career walking away. Andrew Luck's already made $100 million playing football. And they talk about the 54 that he's leaving on the table, or the 58 that he's leaving on the table. And he's got to be going, so what? I can't do it anymore. I can't get out on that field and perform.
Well,
it doesn't matter how much money I'm leaving or how much money I would be making. I can't do it anymore. And he stood up and said, I can't do it, and I retired, instead of going out and playing through the season with not being dedicated to the sport, not being dedicated to the team. Playing when he can't play anymore and doesn't want to play anymore is a far more indefensible position to me than standing up and saying, I can't do this, I'm done.
Exactly. Well, Doug Gottlieb from his own show on Fox Sports 1 had said retiring because rehab is, quote, too hard, end quote.
Is he the guy that called him a millennial?
Is the most millennial thing ever, #Andrew Luck. Did you see Troy Aikman's response?
Yes, I did, yeah. Basically shove it up your backside.
Yeah, and it's like, so this is why you're still employed on Fox Sport 1. I was like, oh, that is... I was just like, bravo.
Yes.
To which I responded and retweeted Troy Aikman. Never thought I would retweet at Troy Aikman, but he is 100% on this. All these quote-unquote professionals calling out luck are just a pathetic excuse for journalists and broadcasters.
Yep.
And I just can't understand why people... I mean, I understand why fans, especially the fans of the Colts, were mad, and there were fans who were trying to, get refunds on their season tickets and things like that.
And then booing him too. That was a classless, absolutely classless.
I expect that type of thing from Philly.
Yes, exactly. I was just going to say the same thing, but that was just absolutely classless.
Yeah, and it's one of those things. I cannot, for the life of me, a true fan of a team, a true fan of the sport, looks at this and goes, "Bravo, Andrew! I would rather see you walk away than be carted off and not be able to experience life with your children anymore." But the real fans, the ones who like, oh, I spent all this money on a jersey and all these game tickets and yada yada yada, that boo, they're not the real fans, in my opinion.
No, I agree.
So
I've got a stack of jerseys in my closet now, going back to number 14, number 55, number 21, and all those guys retired.
Who's my first?
So I have to get new jerseys.
Who was my first Seahawks jersey? I want to say it was Michael Boulware. That's how far back I go.
Yeah, and Peter, isn't it Peter Boulware?
I think it was Michael Boulware the year that I bought it. Oh, okay. I know that both of them played for the Seahawks at one point.
Right. Yeah, no, exactly. And
speaking of which, I got to replace my Chancellor jersey now that he's officially retired.
Yeah. So, and last year I had a unique situation because I have a superstition. I have to wear the same jersey the team is wearing. Okay. Which means that I need 4 jerseys every season. And I'm almost to the point where I think what I wear doesn't affect the outcome of the game, but I'm not quite there yet.
You're getting there, though.
So I'm not quite there yet.
Have you tried the polo? Have you tried wearing the polo?
I had 2 Gordon jerseys and 2 Bosa jerseys. Okay. And both of those jerks changed their number this year. And I'm like, you guys are in year 5, year 4, and year 5. You can't change your jersey number now. So I had to get, and it just pissed me off. So I got all Derwin James jerseys, and now he's out until close to Christmas. So
I know you can't see this, but I'm giving you a golf clap.
Maybe it is me. I don't know.
Karma's trying to tell you something.
Exactly.
So nothing new today yet on the transaction reports. The last transactions were from yesterday, with Carolina cutting Jonathan Celestin and Norm Price, terminated via waivers on all contracts. A bunch of those guys post-game. Looks like we had a trade of Gilbert and Hairston. I don't know if they were Jets to Tennessee, vice versa, or if they were different trades that I just haven't pulled up yet. And unfortunately, what would be nice about the NFL page here? Let me share this with you here really quick, because this is I'm not a web designer in any way, shape, or form, but for functionality's sake, my God, how hard would it be to click right here and have it pull up? Here's the trade information, or click right here. Here's the trade information, because you got all these traded, and yet it's like, who'd they trade them to? Because these are low-level guys. Nobody really cares about it. But I would like to know, as a in-depth fan.
Yep.
Let's see here. So, week 1, let's go to there. Any thoughts on the regular season going forward?
Yeah, I'm very excited. Very excited. Very excited. Thursday night, 100th anniversary. Bears and the Packers. I've got the Bears in that game at Soldier Field. I'm interested to see what Green Bay really does, but coming out of the gate with a rookie head coach playing in Soldier Field against a team that's on the verge of really becoming something special. I'm excited about that, but I'm taking the Bears. I mean,
even with their kicking problems.
Yes. Well, hopefully they'll just go for 2 all the time.
That would be smart of them.
And then as far as the rest of it goes, I am staying away from that Pittsburgh New England game. I wouldn't touch that because who knows? And New England always comes out slow their
Yep.
first couple of games, and everyone said, "Well, that's it. Brady's done. Send him to the farm." And then they go on a 10-game winning streak or something. But as far as like the line here in Vegas, I wouldn't touch that game at all.
Yeah.
And what are my parlays? My parlays are the Bears, the Chiefs, the Rams, the hold on, I'm gonna
I have
have
the
to
whole schedule right there.
yeah, I have to open it up and look at it because otherwise I'm missing this.
Oh, Saints are just gonna. I won't say walk all
Saints
over, but
Saints are one of Saints are one of them.
they're gonna. I'm gonna go with a 10-point spread on that one. It's
That's the game there's a 7-point spread on that game, and I'm very wary when a point spread gets over 5.
yeah.
It's a really tough thing. But yeah, I've got the Bears, I got the Rams, I got the Ravens over the Dolphins, which I'm also not comfortable with, but it's only a 3-point spread. I got the Chiefs over the Jags, and then I have the Saints over the Texans.
Yeah.
So those are my 5 teams, and I haven't filled out the rest of the bracket yet in terms of wins and losses. But week 1 is always 1, 2, and 3 are really hard to pick because you know what you think you have, but you don't really know what you have.
Yeah, the teams haven't actually.
And we haven't seen anybody play.
Yeah.
So, that's a tough thing to do. But for my money, I would take the Bears, the Rams over the Panthers, Redskins and Eagles. Okay. At Eagles, I'll take the Eagles in that. Absolutely. Now that I think about it, Bills and the Jets. Okay, here's an interesting game.
That's a coin flip.
You have a coin?
I might actually. Oh yeah.
I have no faith in the Jets whatsoever, but I don't know anything about them now. They got a new coach. They got Le'Veon Bell, who we haven't seen. They've got DJ Mosley they signed, and they've got Quinnen Williams at their draft pick. So they should be better. But I'm leaning toward the Bills in that game, even though it's at the Jets.
Well, I'm going to go with the Jets on that one.
Falcons and Vikings. That's another game. Falcons are supposedly going to be much better, and the Vikings are supposedly going to be much better. And I take the Vikings just because they're at home.
Yeah.
Ravens over the Dolphins, yes. Chiefs over the Jaguars, yes. Titans and Browns.
That's going to be a good one.
And in Cleveland, and with all of this hype that Cleveland has, there's a lot of pressure on them to win.
Yeah.
And again, I have no faith in Titans in Tennessee at all.
Yeah.
You know what? I'd pick the Browns in that just because they're at home.
Yeah.
Chargers always over the Colts. Seahawks, Bengals at the Seahawks, taking the Seahawks. 49ers and the Buccaneers.
That's one of those games.
49ers and the Buccaneers. When you try to pick games and they have games like this, it's just, I don't have a clue. 49ers have just been so bad lately, and Buccaneers haven't been any much better, and they've got a new coach and a new system coming in, and Jameis Winston, who I just don't think is ever going to be any good.
Plus the fact that it's a 1 p.m. Pacific time game, so it's just like the 49ers would play at home. I'm going with 49ers on that one.
I might go that direction too. That's
Cowboys at home. I'm gonna have to go with Cowboys at home.
Yeah, over the Giants, and then the Lions and the Cardinals. I'll tell you, if the Lions don't win this game, they're going to be 0-6 because their next 5 games are really difficult. This is the only game that they've got that they can possibly win. Week 2, the Chargers go to the Lions. I'm going to go to that game. Then they have Green Bay and Chicago and something like that. They've got a really tough schedule coming up after opening week. So if they don't win this game, and I'd pick the Lions in this game too, because I don't think the Cardinals are. I think that
Yeah.
who was it yesterday? David Moulton said that the Cardinals have a better chance at the number one overall pick next year than they do coming in third in their own division. And I tend to agree with him.
Yeah,
That
that says
we,
something.
we we could all be drastically wrong about this, but I just don't see the Cardinals being able to
What?
do much at all for
Yeah,
the first half of the season anyway. And then Steelers Patriots, it's in New England.
prime time.
I you can't. I just have a kind of a cardinal rule of not picking against the Patriots unless they're playing the Chargers, and I lose all of those. Um, so I'll take the
Yeah,
Patriots, but I expect the Steelers to win this game. And
I don't see it. I don't with their offense. What is it? Their center that has the blood clots for the Patriots.
mm-hmm.
Now I know the next guy up is fully capable of probably doing the job, but he hasn't done it in actual game experience. Ones versus
and,
ones.
and when has that ever mattered for the Patriots?
That's true.
you know,
However, however, I
they
think the
just
Steelers are
traded for
better
two.
this
They
year.
traded for two offensive linemen yesterday.
Yeah,
One from the Cardinals and one I think from Tennessee.
something like that.
And I'd never heard of either one of these guys. And every time they do a trade like this, I stop and go, "What am I missing?
What do they know that we
What
don't?
What didn't I see?" Because if he's doing that, he needs those players, and those are the guys that are going to fit in his system. So,
Yeah,
um,
I'm
so
still leaning
I'd
with the
pick the
Patriots on
Patriots,
this.
but I
I
expect the Steelers to win.
I don't see an issue with the Steelers winning it. It is one of those it's one of those close games, but for good reasons, not
Yeah,
like the Bills and Jets or Titans and Browns.
yeah. And then you got the Saints over the Texans and Broncos and Raiders. That's going to tell us a lot. It'll be great to see that game. I'm picking the Broncos. Um,
Yeah, I don't think the Raiders have the cohesion yet, and that's sad because they're under their second year with Gruden for this
you
stint.
know, I'm not a John Gruden fan, and it has nothing to do with. I loved him in the booth. I thought he was a great commentator.
Yes.
Um, but he hasn't since he went to Tampa Bay. He had one good season with Tony Dungy's team, and he won a Super Bowl. He has a losing record after actually, even including the Super Bowl year, he has a losing record over the last 5 years of his coaching career.
Yep.
And he was fired in Tampa Bay for a reason. And watching Hard Knocks and watching the way that he interacts with these players and the response that he's getting from these guys, I just don't see this team as ever coming back together with this system. I think Mayock has done a much better job than I thought he would.
Yeah.
But once he gets these guys on the field, it's I don't know. And I have a deep-seated, bias against them. So, other than that, though, I'm as objective as I can be.
At least you can admit it.
But I'm taking the Broncos in that game.
Yeah,
So
I honestly just I don't see the Raiders under Gruden at this point in time with what I've seen of them being able to be a cohesive unit at all. And while the offense may be a cohesive unit, the defense may be a cohesive unit, special teams may be a cohesive unit, as a team they are not. And that's how you win. Is like the year the Seahawks went on to win the Super Bowl, even the next year when they went to the Super Bowl and lost to the Patriots. As a team, they were one cohesive unit. Then contracts started getting in the way, which they always do, always do. And it's just one of those things.
I think the Hard Knocks this year has been a real disappointment to me. It's just such a homogenized version of what the Raiders are. From what I understand, too, doesn't Vontaze Burfict play for the Raiders? Because he hasn't been in a frame of Hard Knocks that I've seen, and he hasn't been playing in the preseason. So that's a story in itself. There's all sorts of stuff, and they're just. Richie Incognito's, suspended for the first 2 games. And that hasn't been, haven't heard a word about that on Hard Knocks. And it just, they're just so sugarcoating and kid gloving this team because of the legacy of John Gruden. And
Well, I think they're also sugarcoating it a little bit because of Al Davis, even though it's been a while since he's passed on. There's a certain level of you don't want to bash on Al's team. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So anyway,
But you are right. Burfict is on the team
yeah,
as of right now.
and they had so many additions, and they're all the crazy trouble guys, and all we hear about is Antonio Brown. And now that he
Yep.
can't cry about his helmet anymore, he's going to have to get out on the field and play with his peeling feet. I'll
Vontez
be
Burfict
interested to
is
see.
number one.
I'll be interested to see if they even activate Brown for a game for Week 1.
Well, according to this, he is number one on the depth chart, but it doesn't mean that he is starting. So take that with a grain of salt. Let's see here. They actually have their depth chart up for the Raiders.
Yeah.
Let's see. What do we got for team and depth chart? All right, so we got the Chargers depth chart up now too. So we have Keenan Allen for first, Benjamin for second, Patton for third, and Inman for fourth, with Dupree as a optional fifth. Okung, because of I believe it's his injury, right? Okung,
Yeah,
he's fourth.
He's got blood clots also, a cardiac something or other.
Yeah.
And the issue with that is that they treat it with blood thinners.
Yeah.
So until he's off the blood thinners and it's out of his system, he can't play, obviously, because if he gets cut, it'll look like Saw 3 out there. So I'm surprised he hasn't gone on IR, and I'd be surprised if they don't put him on IR.
Yeah,
because you can put 2 guys on IR and call him back, right?
Yes, I believe that's still the
So
standard.
we've got Derwin James on IR that will call back when he's better, and I bet the same thing happens to Okung. And in the fantasy world of Charger fans, we trade Melvin Gordon to Washington for Trent Williams, and that's not going to happen either.
Yeah. I find it funny how they do the depth chart, because you have a wide receiver on the left side and a wide receiver on the right side. So first wide receiver on the right side is Mike Williams, Jeremy Davis, Artavis Scott, Justice Liggins, followed by Jason Moore and Jordan Smallwood.
Yeah, after it's going to be Keenan Allen, Mike Williams, Benjamin, Artavis Scott, Dontrell Inman, and possibly who's Jeremy Davis.
Yeah,
those will be the 6 wide receivers that they keep.
Yeah, I'm thinking this is based off of this was based before last night's game.
Yeah.
So
running back's interesting because I don't know the rule as far as the contract holdout goes if Gordon counts against our final 53.
I don't think he does until he reports.
So, and they have to put Derwin James on the roster opening week before they can put him on IR. So he's going to be on the 53, and then he'll go on to IR, and then we can replace him. But I don't know what the status is with Gordon, if that counts or not.
What it is he gets put on like a non-football something or other list. I don't think it's not an injury list, but it's.
Oh, isn't there's a did not report list or something like that.
Exactly, which counts as an exemption, is my understanding.
Yeah.
Joey Bosa, Justin Jones, Mebane, I hate you guys. Melvin Ingram, Thomas Davis Sr., Perryman, Nusua, Nawasu, Michael Davis, Rashawn Jenkins, Adrian Phillips, and Casey Hayward Jr. Not bad defensive start, first string.
Yeah, no, I'm very excited about the defensive side of this whole thing, and the thing that I really like about them is there's a camaraderie that we haven't seen on this Charger team in a long time, and this I think comes directly from Anthony Lynn, because as soon as he took over the team, we started to see more and more of this. They call themselves the Jack Boys, and are just tremendously supportive of each other and they play for each other, and they are, constantly supporting one another on the field. And it's, you look out and you see a friendship that's out there that I think is really important and exciting to see.
I just went to the Bears because looking at the kickers, I kind of half expected to see a timid there, to be determined. Because you guys listed your punter as your second string kicker, which that's the way it is with most teams.
Yeah, he actually kicked last week. Didn't do very well, but
yeah,
did have him kicking last week.
But the Bears don't even have Pinheiro. Don't even have a second stringer for Pinheiro yet, so things will be interesting. Where did I see Blair Walsh went to? NFL.com. The one thing I hate about this is when you're trying to search for something on their site for like players and whatnot, it is almost impossible. Really? I hate you, screen. I really do. Oh, Broncos released safety Cravens ahead of cut day. Pats acquire center Bodine in trade with Bills. Raiders cut linebacker Brandon Marshall after 5 months. That's the newest cuts there.
That's the biggest name so far. He's probably done.
Oh, yeah, probably. He's done way too much to hurt himself with teams. Where the heck? I know they have a search function. Every site has a search function. Where the heck is it? Of course they don't have it. I don't want player services. I want a simple look for my player here. Look for player here. I am signed in, you stupid. Alright. Me and the site are not getting along very well today, apparently.
All right. So what are your Thursday night plans?
Next week I'm going to be, obviously we'll be doing this, but for the game I'll probably be sitting downstairs watching the game on the 55-inch screen, provided the wife will let me, because that's where her Xbox is hooked up to. If not, I'll watch it upstairs.
We discovered that our favorite sports bar restaurant, Miller's, here in Vegas, it's Prime Rib Thursday. So I think we're going to go do that. That's what we did. That's what we ended up doing last night, and it was quite delicious.
I'm pretty sure it was. Wow.
So, all right. Well, I think we're about talked out here.
Just about, yeah. I was thinking next week we will go over the divisions, rank them, 1 through 4, and then pick the playoff teams and pick our Super Bowls.
Sounds good.
And then kind of discuss the game going forward.
Yep, and we'll have finally be into the regular season, and off we go.
Yep. And I'm going to see if Brandon might be able to record something for us as well. Maybe get his input.
Great.
And definitely I'm going to get him to do something for week 2 to give you a ribbing. So. All right, guys. Well, y'all have a great week. Don't get too dejected by if somebody you really liked in the preseason gets cut today or tomorrow, because that's just life. Maybe they'll make it on to another team and a better team and do better. Unfortunately.
There you go. All right. We'll see everybody next week.
You all have a great week.